let's bring in Wyoming Congresswoman Rep.Cheney. She's a member of the House Armed Services Committee, also a veteran of the State Department. So this must be fascinating for you because diplomatic breakthroughs happen for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's luck. This one really seems to have been because of the Trump administration's approach early on to try to isolate North Korea, utilizing China to do that. And then the speed by which this has happened is fascinating.
I think it absolutely is, Dana. It's really interesting. If you look at the extent to which President Trump's, I think, very firm position that he took early on, I'm very pleased to see Heather Nauert say that we are continuing to insist on complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization of the peninsula. That's crucial. And I think that, the North Koreans and others around the world have seen that President Trump is somebody who's going to do what he says he's going to do, and he's going to keep his word. And I think we have to be very careful and cautious here. You and I both know, we've been through it before, the North Koreans are liars, exactly. And they have played many administrations, Republican and Democrat, and so we've got to be very cautious about that. But I've also got great confidence in Secretary Pompeo. I think President Trump, Secretary Pompeo is really just a terrific team from the diplomatic side of things to move the ball.
From your experience and also based on your position on the committee, what do you think about this question about denuclearization and from the North Koreans' perspective and possibly the Chinese wanting the United States military to leave?
Well, I think that is not acceptable. I think that we have to be absolutely clear that we aren't going to leave the peninsula, that the forces have got to remain there. And I think we've also got to be clear that, we talk a lot about the danger and the damage and the destruction that would come if, God forbid, we had to take military action to denuclearize the peninsula. But we also have to make sure we keep in mind the potential huge, devastating impact of North Korea being able to hold any of our cities hostage with a nuclear weapon. So it's a very key moment here for the diplomacy, but we've got to remember always, as you said, they're going to lie to us.
Travel with me over then to Iran. President Trump making big news this week, pulling the United States out of that deal. We've seen increased hostilities between Iran and Israel already since then. What do you say to people who worry that there doesn't seem to be a laid out public consumption plan B?
Well, first of all, I would say that what we're seeing from the Iranians is not a result of President Trump's determination and I think very correct decision to pull out of the agreement. What we're seeing is the result of the devastating policies of the Obama administration, which have allowed the Iranians really to grow. The Obama administration paying them $1.7 billion, which they were able to use for exactly this kind of malign activity. Entering into this agreement was one of the most dangerous things we've done, in part because it lifted all the restrictions on the Iranians. It gave them access to money. The IRGC Quds Force are the ones that are attacking the Israelis now from Syria. They're the ones that control most of the business in Iran. They really reaped the benefit of that nuclear deal. In addition, what that deal did was make sure the Iranians had a pathway to a weapon. It had no real verification in it. It had no anywhere, anytime inspections, and it let the Iranians continue to enrich uranium. So the president was absolutely right to pull out. We have to make sure that we continue down the path of blunting the Iranian movements around the region, and that includes in Syria as well as in Iraq.
Well, one of the best ways to do that would be to have a confirmed CIA director. Gina Haspel had her confirmation hearing yesterday. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia says he will vote for her. But, I was curious what you think. Senator Feinstein from California, who voted to confirm John Brennan to be CIA director, has said today she will not vote for Gina Haspel. Do you think that's mostly political since she has a tough primary in California?
And I think it's disgraceful. I mean, in Gina Haspel, we've got somebody who is probably the most qualified nominee for that position, certainly in, 50 years. First career official in over 50 years. First woman in over 50 years. Somebody who is respected across the board. And the fact now that the Democrats are playing games with it, I think really says they're putting something besides the national interest first. So she ought to be confirmed, and she ought to be confirmed quickly.
We'll see what happens on there. Let me just take you to one home state question for you. I mean, it is a national question as well, but of course we love Wyoming. The president today apparently is going to signal that he would be willing to, or he would say he would veto the farm bill if the welfare to work restrictions are not tightened. Are you concerned about that for your constituents?
Look, I think it's really important that we have work requirements in there. If you look at the numbers now, you've got something like 15 million able-bodied, working-age people who are receiving food stamps. And of that 15 million, 9 million of them are not working. We have an obligation as a nation to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get people off of that program and to get people back to work. So I think it's very important. I think the president's right substantively, and I think he's right to send that signal that he's serious about this and that we've got to get
given the politics as it is and headed into the midterms, do you think a farm bill is even possible this year?
Well, the Democrats are playing games once again. I mean, you saw they walked away from the negotiations over this issue. I think that we'll see what happens in the Senate, but it's really important. What we see up here on the Hill a lot, I've learned over the course of the last year, is in the House we're able to do really conservative, good policy, and it's important that we keep doing that. Even though we know the Senate is not always going to be able to meet us on those terms, we got to set the marker out there. So I think it's very important for us to do the right thing here on the Farm Bill, even if the Democrats decide they're going to walk away from the table.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you. Liz Cheney, Congresswoman from Wyoming. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.